Welcome into the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports. We are back from the NFL Combine, so we're going to be breaking down some more Alabama rumors on today's video. Spring practice has started today, so we're going to talk about some notes on that, plus also A-Day as well. Alabama kind of switching and doing some different things with A-Day this year. Also, want to talk about Wilkin Formby in the latest episode from the Fox Nation documentary, The Tides That Bind. I talked to CJ Dupree at the NFL Combine. He had some really interesting insight on Wilkin Formby as well. Alabama also added a player. Didn't really think that was going to be a possibility just here a couple of days before spring practice, and now today's the first day of spring practice, but we'll also mention that on today's video. Make sure you guys are subscribed as well here to the Alabama Football Report. We put out 4 different press conferences. CJ Dupree, Malachi Moore, Tyler Booker, and Jalen Milroe, all on our channel from the NFL Combine. Let's go ahead and over to the channel and check those videos out as well. And do not miss out on any Alabama football news or rumors out there. Make sure you guys hit that sub button for me right now. All right, first up on today's show, we're going to be talking about the modified A-Day now. Kalen DeBoer told On3 last week that Alabama will have not as more of a traditional A-Day game that they had in the past, and is also not going to be televised this year, which really does suck from our end because I was really excited about our watch party. He also mentioned in his press conference today, a couple guys are going to be out for spring practice. Double-digit guys are going to be out. You got Alex Asparuov, the new punter coming in from that 2025 recruiting class. You also got David Byrd, the long snapper as well. Bubba Hampton, wide receiver. Cavante Henry, Damani Jackson, Deontay Lawson, Danny Lewis, Keon Saber, all going to be completely out for spring practice. And then you also have other guys kind of more in that non-contact area. It's going to be Justin Jefferson, Caden Proctor, and James Smith. So we're not going to be seeing those guys on A-Day anyways. Those are some of those more exciting guys that you would want to see on A-Day. So, it does suck that you're going to be missing A-Day. It's not going to be televised, but I do get it. This is exactly what Kalen DeBoer told On3 about the decision of kind of, switching what A-Day is going to look like this year. He said, a lot of times here, the A-Day game has been more of a practice, and there's been, some scrimmage, but not necessarily much of a game. Even when I was at Fresno State, we called it more of a spring preview. Especially this year, there's some things that we're working through with some injuries and so forth, those guys that I just mentioned a second ago. So so it'll definitely be modified. We want to try to have some type of event around April 12th. That has been confirmed. It is going to be April 12th. They'll start around noon. Admission is still going to be free, for Alabama fans to go in person. But like I said, it's not going to be televised. He also continued on and said, I understand why some of the programs are doing what they're doing. We certainly understand the impact that putting things out there for the whole world to see what that can do, especially related to the transfer portal, whether it's guys going in or out. I get all of that, and I know there's different reasons for different programs. Look, I get it. A-Day's not going to be televised. It's not really going to be much of a, scrimmage or practice that we had in the past, but it does suck because, you love, just having that opportunity. We're still months out, all summer long, until we actually get a chance to see Alabama back in action. So it's always that kind of little teaser thing. Last week, or a couple weeks ago, I guess, Steve Sarkisian, was talking to ESPN on 3 other sites as well. And Texas is going to be doing more of an, NFL OTA type, event. Both BYU, Minnesota last year decided not to have spring games. You got Arizona, Iowa will not have traditional spring games this year. Ohio State's, they're calling it, quote unquote, a spring showcase. Ole Miss is doing something that's kind of interesting. They did it last year as well, so this is the second time they're going to be doing it. They call it the Grove Bowl games, which, they have kind of like a little practice, but then they also have a slam dunk competition. They're also going to be having Joey Chestnut there, having a hot dog eating contest. So that's kind of fun, I guess. But when it comes down to it, man, football's what you really want to see when it comes to these spring games. But I do understand that you're not trying to get poached out of the transfer portal. And not being televised is just, one of the easiest things that you can do so other teams aren't, seeing what you have on the field going into next year, because you have that spring transfer portal window. Now, it is only 10 days this year for that spring window, but you just do not want to lose any more players than you already have. Really, roster retention is a massive thing for Alabama and really all those other teams out there. And it's kind of funny that they talk about it being a modified A-Day. I thought A-Day was modified last year. We had offense versus defense. Nobody really understood, the scoring and how things worked until about halftime of that game. So, it is going to be different. You're still able to go for free. I think like the first, 500 fans or something like that are going to get A-Day posters and, things like that. Some fun things are still going to be happening for this spring type event for Alabama, but unfortunately not going to be televised. So unless you're there in Tuscaloosa, not going to get a chance to watch the Crimson Tide this spring. So let me know here at the pinned comment of today's video, are you guys disappointed about A-Day going modified, not being televised? Type Y for yes or N for no at the pinned comment of today's video. That ad's probably going to come here on YouTube. That is totally fine. Get down there to the comments and let me know what you guys think. So spring practice has started today, and Alabama has 2 unofficial visits going to be on campus today. You got Elbert Hill and Titan Davis. According to the 247 Sports composite rankings, Hill right now is the number 2 cornerback. A lot of sites have him as the number 1 quarterback. Or cornerback. It really doesn't matter, 1 or 2. He's a very, very good player, definitely in that 5-star range. You also got Titan Davis. Alabama's going out there, and they're definitely going to try to make a run at getting some defensive linemen in this class. He's another top 100 player. Both these guys are going to be on campus today for unofficial visits. When you talk about Elbert Hill as well, this will be his 3rd visit to Tuscaloosa. He does also plan on taking an official visit sometime this summer, but currently right now there's no date locked in for that yet. Oregon, Ohio State, USC, Alabama, all are going to be getting official visits for him. So we're just going to have to see when that official visit really does happen for him, and we'll keep you guys updated on that as well. You talk about Titan Davis. He's going to be another guy on campus today. This is his first trip to Tuscaloosa. Very good, frame on him for a defensive lineman. Whether or not he's going to be playing more of that bandit role or the inside role if Alabama were to get him. 6'5", 255 pounds, so you could definitely add some weight on him and play him inside, I think. But as his body type sits right now, I do think they kind of like that bandit type role for him. Top 100 player, Alabama's going after in this recruiting cycle anywhere from 3 to 5 defensive linemen, and Titan Davis is definitely going to be a name that we need to keep an eye on because Alabama is definitely going to be pushing hard for him. Before we continue on here, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. You guys could get up to 50% off on Alabama hoodies right now. They got hoodies, they've got crew necks, quarter zips, everything like that. You guys can just go over to chatsports.com/CFB hoodies. There should be a little clickable link over there if I remember to do it. Sometimes I kind of forget to do it. But if it's not down there, it's in the comments and the description of today's show. Just go over to chatsports.com/CFB hoodies and get some Alabama swag for the spring game if you're going to that and or next season as well. Next up on today's show, want to talk about Wilkin Formby a little bit. Got an opportunity to, chat with CJ Dupree at the 2025 NFL Combine, just kind of talking about some of the backlash that Wilkin Formby got after the South Florida game. And Formby talked about that on the Tides That Bind documentary that's coming out right now from Fox Nation. We all remember that game. It was not very good, and he said in that documentary, he went on social media after the game. First thing that popped up on his Twitter timeline was "Kill Wilkin Formby," and that's just absolutely ridiculous. I know we put this clip out that we're about to show here in just a second, and there were some people in there talking about, these guys are getting paid, a lot of money now. They deserve criticism, and I get it. You can criticize guys, but look, this game is already so tough, and the season is so mentally taxing for a lot of these players. They're working way harder than the average person on a day-to-day basis. They have their classes that they have to go to, workouts, recovery, study hall. They have their meetings, whether that's just positional meetings or full team meetings. They have practice. They have to worry about nutrition. College football players right now, I think it's, I think it's pretty solid to say that they right now even have tougher schedules than NFL players. You talk about a lot of these guys that come out of Alabama, they go off to the NFL and they say, hey man, it's way easier than the NFL than it was, in our time in college. And everybody wants to say, like I said, that these kids are soft because it's just an easy way to, talk bad about them and criticize them. And I just don't think that fans a lot of the times, see and really understand what these players go through. I asked CJ Dippre about Wilkin Formby at the NFL Combine. This is what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think whoever they bring, I don't know who they brought in or anything like that, or if it will be Wilkin. Wilkin's a great player, though. He started early in the season this past season. He had a rough game, and, I think he got a little too harsh from, the outside noise. It's not you got to realize, even though someone's may be that big or, is at a program like that, like they're still young. So, I mean, going after people like that for a bad game or whatever like that, it's just rough. But he's definitely take growth steps. Wilkins, he's a great person in the locker room too. So, I'm excited to see who steps up. And I do have good belief that it could be him.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like Wilkin Formby was just absolutely perfect this past year and should have gone out there and played more than Elijah Pritchett. I think Elijah Pritchett at some points really did benefit from early on playing very well. But I do think Wilkin Formby, in the times that he did play outside of that South Florida game, I thought he played pretty well. And we'll look at some of some comparing and contrasting of these guys. But I think Wilkin Formby, after that South Florida game, did he deserve to be benched? Yes, absolutely. Elijah Pritchett deserved that opportunity going into the Wisconsin game and to the Georgia game, and he played pretty well in those games and deserved the opportunity to continue being that starter for Alabama, at least in the short term. But I do think Wilkin Formby got a lot of bad criticism during the season, some unwarranted criticism. And I do agree. You can go out there and you can criticize these guys. They are making money from NIL now, but a lot of the times these fans, Alabama fans and other fans as well, whether it's trolling or being serious or not, they do take it too far. Something that Nick Saban said all the time. Nobody wants to win more than these players, even the fan bases out there. So while I understand, after that South Florida game, I think he had I think he had 4 penalties in that game. Yeah, 4 penalties. And I think 3 of those penalties took touchdowns off the board. So I understand the criticism that comes to, Wilkin Formby's way, but I do think we need to chill out sometimes when it comes to these players. They are still kids. I don't know exactly off the top of my head how old Wilkin Formby is. At the very most, he's got to be, 21, 22, something like that. So they're still kids. There's still time. They're going through their progressions and everything like that. And I do have confidence that Wilkin Formby is going to be very good at that right tackle position for Alabama this season. So let me know here in the comments section, what is your confidence level in Wilkin Formby? Scale it for me 1 to 10. I would assume he's going to be the guy at that right tackle spot. Maybe you also have Jackson Lloyd if he can come in and really, go crazy in the spring and, summertime during those practices and things like that, and in that fall practice window as well. But I do think Wilkin Formby is going to be the guy. So let me know your confidence level in Wilkin Formby right now. All right, so like I said about Elijah Pritchett, we're just touching these stats on more than 30 snaps in a game because there were some times where they swapped in and out. He played a little bit early. And so I just wanted to, the more than 30 snaps is what I want to focus on here. Elijah Pritchett, I think, really benefited from playing well against Wisconsin and Georgia. And then outside of that, look, man, it just was so inconsistent against other teams. Even that South Carolina game, that's probably from these PFF grades, one of his, best games. But it seemed like there was a lot of pressure on Jalen Milroe during that. And I will say for both of these guys as well, all these guys along the offensive line, I think Jalen Milroe this year did struggle with figuring out the pass protection, shifting the protection to the left or to the right. I think he got confused a lot of the time. You look at that South Florida game, they came with a lot of, exotic type of blitzes, the Vanderbilt game as well. But when you look at these two guys and what they did, obviously Elijah Pritchett played a whole lot more than Wilkin Formby did. I was never sold on Elijah Pritchett this year. I thought he was more of a Band-Aid, to fix the problem instead of, having stitches or staples or something like that. Somebody that could really come in and play that position with, just a whole lot more consistency. And I'm not saying if Wilkin Formby was the starter all season long, he would have been any better or worse than Elijah Pritchett. Really, what I'm going about here is there was not a lot of criticism on Elijah Pritchett, and I do think that, considering the entire season, I don't think he was any better or worse than Wilkin Formby. So the criticism from Wilkin Formby, I just think to the extent level that it was, I do think it was somewhat unwarranted. Last thing on today's show, Alabama added one player to their roster. You got Jaden Hobson, who has had an interesting path in his college football career. He was added to the roster on Sunday, and he was a 3-star recruit in the 2023 recruiting class. He's a Tuscaloosa native. He's from Paul W. Bryant High School, also went to Hillcrest as well. He spent his freshman year at Mississippi State. That's why you see, unfortunately, the really crappy picture there, because Mississippi State doesn't understand cropping, I guess. I don't really know. But, he did redshirt his first year there at Mississippi State, ended up transferring to South Alabama last spring, and he left the team with intentions to drop out of school just completely and enter the workforce. So, now he's back here at Alabama, and he's not going to be a guy most likely that's going to play. Maybe if something crazy happens, he ends up getting some opportunities there, but he was added depth at that tackle spot. Now, he's listed as a tight end, but I do kind of think that's just more of that extra offensive lineman, blocking tight end type deal there. You got Arkel Angwam, I believe is how you say his name. I mean, we really haven't heard his name actually spoken, so you got him out of the transfer portal as well. You got Caden Proctor, Wilkin Formby, and Jackson Lloyd at that tackle spot. So you're a little bit light in terms of the depth that you have there at tackle. But look, this is another body. You got some guys out for spring practice. I think it's just going to help Alabama, stay healthy in the long run.